Outback Queensland, right? But the country boy from Outback Queensland has progressed to a place in the world that I never, ever anticipated. The people I've met, the trust and respect.
When Greg Norman says, "I never forgave him," he's talking about a whole list. A list that shows how one man's mission to change golf ended up costing him nearly everything. Greg Norman is a legend, a two-time Open champion with vision and guts. That took courage. But between 2021 and late 2025, his vision became something completely different. A campaign of bridge burning, so intense and so personal that by September 2025, when he officially left LIV Golf, he had fractured nearly every important relationship in the sport. The 5 people we're about to discuss represent 5 different ways Norman chose to burn those bridges. Not because they betrayed him, but because when people didn't see things his way, Norman's first instinct wasn't to listen. It was to attack. It was to dismiss. It was to go scorched earth. And once you cross that line, once you torch everything, there's no gallery rope that pulls the ball back in bounds. In 2025, Scott O'Neill took over as CEO of LIV Golf. Norman moved into an advisor role. Everyone in the golf world knew what that meant. You're done leading. Your fighting days are over. By September 2025, his contract ended completely. He was out. A league that needed Norman's anger and disruption to launch itself now needed healing and legitimacy. Norman couldn't provide that. Quick favor, if you're into golf drama like this, hit the hype button so more fans see this story while it's still hot. He couldn't move past his grudges. He couldn't let them go. Rolex came to LIV in late 2025, but only after Norman was completely gone. Only after they could move away from the combative, antagonistic style that won important battles, but lost everyone who actually mattered. Norman globalized a new format. He disrupted an entire sport. He changed the game forever, but he left it more broken than before. Let's talk about the 5 people Greg Norman says he will never forgive. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Number 5, Mick Faldo. This goes back the furthest of all. This goes all the way back to 1996 and the Masters. Norman had a 6-shot lead on Sunday. He lost it all to Faldo. Cold efficiency beat aggressive flamboyance. That moment shaped everything Norman did after. Faldo represented a style of golf Norman despised. Mechanical, boring, safe, chess in a field. Norman wanted supercharged excitement. When Faldo went on the air in late 2024 and 2025, calling LIV meaningless, saying players should sort it out, Norman took it personally. Not as criticism, as disrespect. The old wound opened again. Faldo kept saying Norman's revolution was a mistake. They never had a big public fight, but they didn't need to. Faldo beat him once, and Faldo was still beating him in 2025 from the broadcast booth by refusing to validate what Norman built. That persistent, quiet refusal bothered Norman more than any direct insult. Number 4, Brle Shambbley. This feud was about narrative control and power. Shamblley had the Golf Channel platform. He asked hard questions about ethics, sports washing, and competitive integrity. Norman hated it. He called Shamblley a paid, talking bobblehead. He said Shamblley was making himself look like a jerk. Norman tried shutting him up with insults and dismissals. But then, Shamblley leaked a text message from before all this. A text where Norman encouraged Shamblley to keep being honest, to call things the way he saw them. Norman loved Shamblley's honesty, until Shamblley got honest about Norman. That exposed everything. Norman didn't want discourse. He wanted agreement. When Shamblley disagreed, Norman attacked him. Shamblley called for Norman to be removed from the World Golf Hall of Fame. That's how ugly it got. And in 2026, Shamblley is still on the air. Norman is not. That's the real loss. Number 3, Jack Nicklaus. This stung deepest because Nicklaus was a mentor, the golden bear, the greatest golfer ever. Norman went to war with him. Norman claimed Nicklaus had blessed LIV in an email saying, "This is good for our game." He put that out there publicly. He weaponized it. Except Nicklaus said he met with LIV representatives out of professional courtesy for a course design contract. Zero interest, he said. They offered over $100 million. Nicklaus could have taken that. He chose not to. He stayed loyal to the PGA Tour. Norman couldn't handle that rejection, so he called Jack a hypocrite with a short memory. He publicly betrayed a private conversation because he couldn't couldn't win the argument any other way. That violated golf's code, the discretion, the respect between legends. Even worse, Nicklaus's own company sued him over LIV discussions. Norman used that mess as ammunition. By attacking the most revered living legend in golf, Norman declared war on the entire history of the sport. Everyone knew it. Everyone held it against him. Number 2, Rory McIlroy. Of all the feuds, this is the most personal betrayal. McIlroy didn't start as an enemy. After his devastating 2011 Masters collapse, Norman reached out with genuine support and kindness. McIlroy remembered that forever. When he watched the Shark documentary and saw Norman's own 1996 heartbreak in detail, McIlroy thought maybe this was a real chance to heal. He reached out. He offered an olive branch. Norman responded warmly at first. It seemed like maybe there was an actual path forward between them. Then Norman told the Washington Post that McIlroy had been brainwashed by the PGA Tour. Brainwashed. Not just disagreed, like McIlroy was a puppet. And McIlroy snapped completely. He vowed to be as much of a pain as possible. He kept that promise through late 2025. But McIlroy strategized too. He said the PGA Tour was lucky Norman was the face of LIV because Norman prevented the league from gaining real legitimacy. Then he went after Norman's legacy systematically. After his 21st PGA Tour win, he pointed out it was one more than Norman's total of 20. He set a goal to hold world number 1 for 332 weeks, 1 week longer than Norman. McIlroy was methodically erasing Norman from the record books, and Norman called that vitriol. But it was organized dismantling of a legacy. Number 1, Tiger Woods. This is the heavyweight fight. Tiger is the most influential figure in golf history. When Tiger was 15, Norman met him at Bay Hill. Norman played a role in steering Tiger toward instructor Butch Harmon. There was mentorship there. There was connection. But as Tiger ascended to a level that completely eclipsed Norman's career, something shifted. By early 2023, Tiger said publicly that Norman needed to exit stage left. If there was ever going to be peace, Norman had to go. And Norman's response was to say Tiger was a mouthpiece for the PGA Tour, a puppet, someone being used to create internal turmoil. This was the nuclear option. This was Norman trying to shrink the most powerful man in golf down to a puppet. It was desperate and wrong. Tiger used the word animosity 5 times in a single press conference to describe what Norman did. That's emphasis. And then there was the letter. Norman claimed he hand-delivered a congratulatory note to Tiger's Florida gate after Tiger's 2019 Masters win. Tiger never acknowledged it. Complete silence. Norman was hurt. He said, maybe Tiger just dislikes me. But then Tiger rejected a $700 million offer to join LIV. That wasn't silence. That was Tiger saying the ideological divide is too big. Norman changed the game in a way I can't support. And Norman never recovered. Here's what all 5 men represent in golf today. The icons, the elite, the media, the historians, the legends. Norman fractured with all of them. His strategy was always the same. When people disagreed, he didn't listen. He attacked. When people showed loyalty to institutions he fought, he called them brainwashed. When people asked tough questions, he called them bobbleheads. His negative posture was his entire leadership strategy. It worked for about 4 years. It disrupted the game. It brought in players. It forced conversations. But once fighting ended, Norman couldn't shift. He couldn't move from combative to healing. That's why Scott O'Neil replaced him. That's why golf is trying to heal without him. Once bridges burn this intensely, they don't rebuild quickly. But here's the really hopeful part here now. It's 2026 right now. Golf is trying hard to move forward. LIV and the PGA Tour are talking about integration. Players are moving between tours again. And that's because golf itself is bigger than any one person's need to win an argument. Golf survived before Norman disrupted it. Golf will survive after him. Maybe years from now, people will remember him as the man whose burning bridges forced the game to finally rebuild them, stronger and more united than before. Like, subscribe, and tell us which feud you think hurt the most.